Dude, first of all, let me say thank you very much for taking the time. Like, you're a Ukrainian artist running a Ukrainian office. You guys, like when people say, yeah, we have problems with the office, I do not think that they know what Ukrainian people have as problems when running their own office. Do you want to start by telling me a little bit your story, how you started out, and how these evolved into what today it's called RenderBar?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I'm in CGI industry for already 10 years, and I started doing images when I was 21. Now I'm going to be 31 next year, so it's already 10 years I'm in the industry and doing almost the same things. So my first company called Submarina, I founded with friends, and in 2019 I decided to quit the company. I was so much obsessed with the idea of running a completely different business. So as you know, I started the restaurant career in 2020. So basically, I bought one restaurant and then I decided to rebuild this restaurant. And the idea was to open the restaurant in the beginning of 2020, but then the COVID started. And after half of a year or like 9 months, I understood that it's going to be a very tough times of like running the restaurant or building the restaurant empire. So in the end of 2020, I just decided to shift again back to CGI and start another office. And we started back in 2021 with me and one of my friends and one employee. And now we are 18 people, and we are about to hire two more people till the end of this year. And we are going to be, yeah, 20 people studio. And yeah, well, this is pretty it.
Okay, Taras, I think I'm gonna help you a little bit reconstructing the timeline because maybe you're forgetting a couple of things. You went from studying architecture and then around 2018 and 19 you studied business management. Is that correct?
Yes, basically entrepreneurship and business management, and got a master degree in business
And I
at that time.
remember I remember that because of the conversations that we were having. Before COVID, you and I were talking a lot more often than we did now. I also came to see you in Ukraine for the event that you guys were organizing, which is absolutely one of the
Yeah,
best events that I've ever been to. Um, but then when you finished that course, I remember you and I had this conversation where you said, "I want to start a bar and I want to start a restaurant," and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like, how did that idea come to life?
yeah. So basically, we were a Ukrainian company that was mostly working for international companies, right? International businesses, and we usually never met our clients. Our work was done in the offices. Like most of the time, we're just looking at the screens and we were doing images, which was really good and interesting. But I came with an idea that I'm so young and I just want to try different things. So I was just obsessed with the idea of trying different things. I wanted to have some diversity. And I thought that probably CGI is, not my thing. Probably I just started doing this because I was studying architecture. Then I had an opportunity. I had the first client and I could provide him images and, all those things. So I was thinking like when you're young, you have tried multiple options. I, of course, I couldn't think about COVID and lockdowns at that time, and I couldn't predict any troubles which I could have when you start another business because it's all about expertise and experience. However, I was brave and probably stupid enough to try different things. So, and because I was studying in this business school and I was so inspired by a couple of entrepreneurs in Ukraine who started the restaurants, and they were telling so incredible stories about this feeling of how is to run the restaurant, like when people come in the place that you designed and try the food and drink and all this atmosphere. So I wanted to have just a pretty more connection to the people because in CGI you actually usually don't have this, right? I mean, it's more communicating through the screen.
Plus, I
So yeah,
think that, the advantage of being a designer, it's a no-brainer for you to say, hey, I'm gonna design something that it's gonna be more beautiful than any other restaurant or bar that I've ever seen, and it's going to be my thing, right?
exactly. Exactly. And so I could, because I also took part in the interior design for this restaurant. I took a huge part, and I was thinking, wow, I mean, we will do this design and I will see it myself. I could even touch this. So it's not like when you set up the 3D scene and then you see the picture after all, but it's like you can touch all of these, you can smell the air there, you can see people smiling in this space and how they interact with the space. So I was completely obsessed with the idea of creating like my individual space where people could come and have a pleasure and enjoy, and everything. So this is how it came out to my mind, basically.
There is something intoxicating about um, hospitality, meaning, you organize an event, I organize an event. It's beautiful when you see that people enjoy and they're inside something that you have
Yeah.
created, right?
Yeah, I mean, although it require a lot of energy, it require much more energy than running an office of artists and these type of online business, because you work a lot with people, you meet a lot. I mean, especially if you have a big audience. I mean, look, in like in D2, how many people you had? Like 300, 500, 1000, I don't know, like in
Yeah.
for
All of
you
it.
you have. Yeah, and probably you talk to half of the audience, maybe to the whole audience, and like each communication, each dialogue requires a lot of energy. So you have to invest a lot of energy. And the restaurant is the same. You can have like 100, 200 people a day in your restaurant, and of course you set up the team, like waiters and everyone who interact with the people instead of you. But however, you have to still communicate with the audience of your restaurant when you're starting your first restaurants. You have to understand your audience. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of clients. It's not like you in CGI you have like 5 or 6 major clients that like gives you like most of your revenue, right? You have tons of them. So just in terms of investing the energy, I just also found out that I'm not that extroverted person that I was thinking about myself. And running an annual conference in Arquiz, once a year, it's a completely different thing than to run a restaurant and visit the restaurant every day, every single day, talk to people, understand their needs, their complaints, and try to build the relationship with them.
I wasn't trying to compare myself to you. Yeah, absolutely not. No, but uh, I wanna say something about what you said a little bit earlier, where you said I was brave enough or stupid enough, and somebody once told me that being brave and being stupid are two faces of the same coin.
Yeah.
So, like, there it is. Uh, okay, so you started this bar, and then this restaurant, sorry, and then I do remember you telling me, Fabio, I have this idea. I want to start a render company which makes low cost images. And like, when I hear low cost, it's always a very, like a weird thing, because it's like, I don't think that you can actually consider the work that we do as low cost. You can optimize it, you can try and do it in a very efficient way, but there are many factors at play that simply don't allow you to be like too cheap or considered low cost. Uh, Sorry, I'm saying a lot of things, but basically, what I want you to expand a little bit on that, and I want you to tell me whether or not what you thought of being able to do things low cost was really possible, or did you have to change a little bit, your idea and your strategy?
Yeah, so basically idea of RenderBar, the first one is not even about low cost renderings, but it was more about very optimized process. What I mean, so I took inspiration from these types of, again, hospitality businesses, or not even hospitality, these apps where you can get a pizza, get the ingredients for pizza, make everything online, and then someone from delivery will like you deliver you this pizza within a couple of hours. And I was excited about this idea. I was thinking about what if we do the same with renderings. So basically, the client enters the website, he can upload his model, he can push all the buttons, what type of lighting he want. He could upload the landscape design. He could give some comments about what type of animation and picture he want to have. And he don't need to go through the range of comments and feedbacks. He just want it to be done very quickly, with a good service, without talking to anyone, without running stupid meetings and everything. So what that was the initial idea. And we tried to create an MVP website for these with another friend of mine. And we didn't have a big budget, so basically we wanted just to try this idea out. And when we had the MVP and I started to sell and promote this idea, I faced with the fact that clients really want to give comments, and this is what they're paying money for. It's not about the good result at the beginning. No, it's actually about designing their building during the process while you're making the picture, right? And it's also giving comments. It's all about going in the meetings and giving all these feedback. So like in half of a year I understood that the idea is not going to work. And even now, like after 2 years with all AI thing, I understand that probably someone already making the same idea but just with the use of AI. So we will need no any artists for these type of quick renderings of just just showing the architecture
You
as
will
it is.
still have artists making comments for the client, because like clients are going to be like, change this, change, no this, no that wind, no, fuck you, Mid Journey.
Yeah, exactly. But well, I mean, so the idea was of avoiding the comments, avoiding the feedback rounds. Is would just just order and have a quick delivery. And yeah, so basically I understood it's not going to work. So I decided that fuck, I will just need to do everything from scratch. Create another company with a the probably similar, but probably the same approach that every studio use to the basically process of creating the images, animations, and whatever.
um I don't think there is anything wrong with that, to be honest with you. And eventually, uh, one thing that I've learned in my career is that there will always be products that are designed to sort of like promise something that then it's not possible to achieve. Like for instance, one thing that I've seen is that when Fiverr came out and people were like, "Oh, Fiverr is great," like you can pay very little for rendering. One thing that I've realized talking to clients is that Fiverr has actually helped raising the value of the work that certain people were doing really, really good. Because, with all the little disappointments for 200, 300, $400, at a certain point, some of my clients, at least in my case, they were like, no, we rather spend 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and we do not have to deal with all the scams of having to look for people and then you get different offers. And also, like, there is a perceived value attached to a higher price tag. And so,
Yeah.
like when you offer something for very cheap, even if you're really good and maybe you're just starting out, that's another thing that I've noticed, is that people tend not to trust you because they're like, that's too cheap, there must be something wrong with it. And so, that thing of like pricing and everything really is sort of like something that you have to try and test and see, where your conversion rate starts to make sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. And completely agree with you that Fiverr and Upwork and all these other platforms help. First of all, it helped probably artists who don't want to go to the studio. They probably just want to keep doing their thing. They just want to have like 5 6 images a month, which can cover their costs, and they have some another spare life that, or some other things that they do, and they just want to make money on this. So there's also a market, right? But it's kind of a different market, and people will always want to save money on something. If they see the opportunity to spend less, they will definitely go and try this. I mean, everyone had the same situation, right? I mean, even when you go to the restaurant, you could see, I mean, this pizza is trying a little bit more cheaper, probably I can take this, and then you figure out that probably it was made of a not a good wet, or I don't know, or the ingredients are not the best top quality and everything. But it always, in something always that in our mind that probably can, just save a little bit money on this or that. So um there will be always people who will offer something cheaper, and there will be always people who will understand the value and understand where the price is coming from, and they will pay, right? So, I mean, it just gives us an idea that the market is very big and it's very diverse, and you can find opportunities in, every part of the market.
Um, there is a say that goes like, spending too much for something is unwise, but spending too little is foolish.
Yeah,
Because, like, dude, let me ask you something. So you're from Ukraine.
yeah.
How? And this might be a stupid question, but like, I want you to expand on this. How did the war affect the way that you guys were doing things? How is it going right now? What did you have to do in order to keep your business running? With everything that you guys are going through.
Well, it's a good question. So basically, we had a couple of stages during this war. So I can split my answer in a couple of parts. So that was the before, when everyone didn't know what's happening, and we were receiving the news from like big medias like Economist and Bloomberg that Kiev is going to fall during 3 days. And that was a huge stress, because like it was completely unknown situation. No one knew what to do. So that was like stage one, right? So uncertainty. Then we had another stage when everyone understood that like the government and people, we are not going to give up quickly, and we are going to fight for the freedom. So people understood, okay, then we can continue work, or we can join the army, or we can help the army, do all these things. Then there was a stage of blackouts, like when Russia was bombing our infrastructure, and we had somehow to invent, I don't know, how we can make our office still go efficient, because we had days with no electricity. So we had to, create some system that could fulfill our computers with enough of energy during the blackouts. Now it probably stabilized a little, because people now uh, they understood that they're living in war and it's not going to end up anytime soon. So they have to adapt to the situation. So going through all these stages were very stressful. But now I think people got used to everything, and they just keep doing what they were doing. So basically now everyone understands the situation very clearly. And I remember when it was the stage one, when the war just started. I remember the day before the war started, we were talking within the office that, what if the war is going to start tomorrow? And we're like, no, it's not going to happen. It's definitely not going. I mean, the war in 2021, or sorry, in 21st century. However, it started, but I think because of we had such a great relationship, such a good working culture inside the team, there was no any panic at that time when the war started. I remember this morning, and actually me and some of my friends, we had to go skiing on 21st of February, and one friend of ours called us and said, "Did you guys went for skiing?" And we said, "No, we decided to postpone the skiing." And Yeah, I remember it was very smooth. There was no any panic inside our team. I just remember I called all the clients and I said the war started and we probably will be a bit late with the deliveries for a couple of days maybe or for a couple of hours, but we actually never stopped working. So I remember just the 24th of February was the day of not doing the job, and probably 25th, but then we just just moving forward from 26th. I think we just continue doing what we were doing. So
It's crazy because like oftentimes the stuff that you read in the newspapers in media, it makes you realize how we as a society are not capable to distinguish information, what's right and what's wrong. And I remember people making the case of the fact that, like in Ukraine, people are still working. So where is the war? And I'm like, people need to work. It's you need money. There is a day-to-day operation of people having to do stuff in order to keep their families fed, clothed, warm at home. Yes, there is bombing and everything, but this is the case of every single war. Even during the Second World War, the First World War, things did not change. There was a
yeah,
period of time where I used to live still in Vienna, and well, no, I wasn't living in Vienna. I was living already in Switzerland. But you would see these videos of Ukrainian cars, beautiful cars, Porsche, Mercedes, parked in Vienna, and people being like, "Oh, if there is the war, where do they get the money for these big cars?" And I'm like, "Dude, Ukraine used to be such a beautiful, rich country. Like I've been there a couple of times. It's like it's discouraging how stupid sometimes certain people can be about these kind of topics. uh, and like I remember in 2019 you and I went to the monument in Lviv, and you told
yeah.
me, yeah, in 2016 here there was the revolution, and I was like, what? Like I had no idea that there was stuff happening, and you explained to me the story, and you were like, like now we know how Russia is and how things are. Hopefully, this will never happen again. That was in 2019.
Yeah, yeah. I think people are living their lives, and it's the same with every war. I mean, when it especially starts in a completely different part of the world, um, then some of people are trying to discover the information about the conflict, about the countries who are in conflict, and they try to understand what actually is happening. But I think that now we're living in the time where most of the people just read the headlines. They don't even read the articles, right? They don't even read the text. They just read the headlines, and they take information from these, or probably they just follow some influencers who can give them some certain of truth, or like some certain storyline about what's happening. And less people are trying to understand what is actually happening. And for us, the war started actually in 2014 when Russia annexed the Crimea. So we knew that it's probably can happen once again, but never, like, no one was expecting that it will happen to the whole country. That the guy from Kremlin will do it with the whole country. He will start actually the full scale war. Everyone was expecting that something is going to happen in the east part of the country, and Ukraine is a very big country. You remember, right? It's like 1,000 kilometers between the
Yeah,
city where we based and the city where the actual war is. It's like 1,000 kilometers. The same 1,000 kilometers is from Lviv to Germany,
yeah.
right? So it's a long distances, and everyone was hoping that something will just happen in the east part of the country. And yeah, but as you can see, we still, there are still a lot of bombarding on the wall territory, and there are still a lot of shit is happening. And this is just a problem of the time where, like our time now, that people are not trying to understand what is really happening in the reality. They just collect information from social medias, and this is it. And I'm worried, there is also one side that I'm probably a little bit more happy about the war, if I can use the word happy, but that people got more interested in our country. They understood that this is not the country that belongs to Russia, or just the Russian neighbor or satellite or anything. This is a completely different country with a different values, with the different personalities, with a different approach, with people who want to live a completely different life, and they're fighting now for this life.
Ukraine is such an amazing place, Like when I came to Lviv, I had no idea what to expect uh, because you don't hear much about it. And when I was there, there were two things that really hit me. First one is the food. Fucking amazing, man. Like, I
Yeah,
ate incredibly good food in Lviv. I remember uh, Andras and I were together, Andras from Brick,
yeah,
and we were eating ribs. They gave us like a thing to wear because all the fat was getting on our t-shirts, and we were eating like kilos of ribs, and it was so cheap and so delicious. And the second one is that I I think I never had so much fun with people from any other country or city as in Lviv. Like we went out drinking, we were laughing, people were so much fun. And usually you get this idea of Ukrainians being very like cold and distant. No, this was really not the case. And Lviv really looks like being in Vienna or being in I don't know any other European city.
yeah. I think the values are the same, and actually, we was a part of Austrian Empire
Ah, there
in
you
the
go. So
past. Yeah, and then it was a part of Poland, and it became Ukrainian. I think since, okay, I don't want to make a mistake here, but after the Second World War. And yeah, so it adopted a lot of European values. And yeah, of course, I think Ukrainians are great, and we adopted a lot of like European and American culture. So I think when Ukrainians go traveling around the world, is not different from any other Europeans, right?
dude, let's like to me this is all very interesting because I do think that like at least in our field people don't really know a lot of what is happening, and there is a very biased opinion when it comes to Russia and to Ukraine and who's right and who's wrong. um, I'm interested in knowing, like, you guys were working with Russians in the past, right? I mean, there were a lot of like collaborations.
Mm,
Probably not you, but I know that other offices, like they had Russian people working for them. Um, that thing, it's now split. How is it? Are you guys still trying to keep a good relationship with the people that were in contact with, or maybe this doesn't apply to you?
no, yeah, I mean, it doesn't apply to us. We never work with any Russian companies, so I don't know how it with other companies, but what I really know that everyone stopped receiving any work from Russians. Uh, First of all, because of political reasons, but another thing is that all the communication between banks was stopped since the war started, so it was impossible to continue doing this. And definitely there was a lot of architectural offices that had Ukrainian presence and Russian presence, and I know that they sold their businesses or just gave out their businesses in the first days. So there are no any communication, no any cooperation, no anything with Russian companies, nothing. To be honest, for me, it's really hard to say because, like, you remember when we organized 3 Decembers back in 2018 and 19, we had a lot of people from Belarus, for instance, but we had never Russians there. So, for me, it's really hard to say about the Russians because I never seen a lot of them.
The thing is that I do remember at the D2 we had quite a few Russians coming to the event, and we had Ukrainians and Belarusian. That's the right way to say it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and like it felt to us like the community was always much together, and so the fact that people could understand each other, because like not a lot of Ukrainians can speak perfect English, and same for Belarusian and Russians. And so like I do remember times where uh, these three different countries, they would come together at the D2, and they would have a beautiful time together. And now, because of this political thing that it's not in the interest of the people, it's just for countries that have decided to do this, you don't have it anymore. And in a way, it breaks my heart, because like what it's like to make an event for the community. All of a sudden people cannot come and they cannot enjoy it, and it's like, hey, what the hell, but anyway, um, dude, listen, we've been talking about this stuff, and as I was saying, it's very interesting and all, but I'm a little bit curious about the work that you guys do. And probably, this part is going to be very minimal in comparison to the whole conversation that we had. But that's
yeah.
okay, like it's I wanted to hear your story. So tell me a little bit about your process, where it is that you guys get the inspiration, and how do you go on about creating the work that you do when working for your clients.
Yeah, well, so we are getting like first thing, and the inspiration is right. It's very important. It's like we are getting. I think we're like as every studio, we're getting from architectural photography, especially architectural photography of Ivan Ban and Hafton and Crow. These are one of our two major inspiration sources. Currently, we are working mostly like so. Basically, we have a bunch of American clients where we do marketing images. They're more, let's say, in the same mood. It's like daytime or a blue hour, more traditional compositions with a lot of details and everything, with a lot of happy people inside. And we have another part is the architectural competitions. Most of them are for Saudi Arabia or Middle East clients, so they're under strict NDA and probably will never able to show them. And those are more artistic and creative images. However, they also always come with the happy people, right, on the foregrounds and backgrounds. And I must say that the industry probably was frozen a little bit since the war started because European companies stopped working for Russians. There was also some like money crisis and mortgage crisis in Europe, and probably you also felt this on your skin. I think it was because of printing a lot of money since COVID. So a lot of projects in Europe was frozen, and that's probably why we not see that many competitions and competition pictures from other studios in Europe. So I think now most of the industry is working for Middle East, and that's why this is the reason why we don't see everyone posting,
Everybody's doing neon, but you just don't see it.
exactly, exactly. And what else? And then probably projects from United States because they still keep building luxury residentials and condos and everything like that. So this is what we do. Yeah, but what do you want to hear exactly about the process, about the workflow?
I'm more interested in whether or not you guys have a specific way of doing things. Like, I don't know. I have the feeling maybe I'm taking a stab in the dark, but I do, I've seen your work evolving since you first started out. And then uh, almost at the very beginning, um, Pavlo came to work for you. The,
Yeah, from the guy from Brick.
from Brick. And then
Yes.
sort of like I've seen things changing a little bit, like the image quality started to go up. I don't want to say that it was his input or anything, but I knew his work. I think he's very talented. And so I'm like, is there something, some secret sauce that you guys started to implement?
Yeah, so yeah, I can give you a couple of secrets that we did. So
I wanna hear
because
everything.
yeah, because me and Paul and Pasha, we have a big networking and we know a lot of people from different studios. We started doing another thing. We started doing art direction, let's say, days where we invited top artists from top studios like Mir, Plum, etc. And they were giving some master classes. Mostly it was about how to do the sketches, and because we invested a lot of time and energy in doing sketches, we really wanted to find some artistic look to our images. We wanted to find some of our style, because I mean it is very important to keep the client happy, but at the same time it's very important to keep yourself happy as
Of
well
course,
about what
absolutely.
you're doing, and yeah, and about what you're doing. You have to be proud of what you're doing. So because we got the bunch of like first class artists, and they could give us a very unique information that you will, you will have to spend a lot of time on, coming this by yourself to this by yourself. And they gave us a lot of tips and tricks, and we were doing this constantly, like once in a month we had this type of masterclass. And because we had this opportunity to, getting the artists from different companies, we could collect a very different sort of information: how to set up the camera, how to do a very quick sketches, how to do a good matte painting, how to optimize files for animation, etc., etc., etc. So it gave a big boost to our production, and artists started doing like faster and faster. And now I came with an idea of posting in Instagram more this type of draft thing, of these sketches that our artists doing at the beginning, because I think these days everyone has pretty same quality. People already learn how to do the quality, and of course after using stable diffusion, everyone got almost free Photoshop artists who can implement the foreground and background and everything, and all images look pretty much the same. So I think the difference between businesses is actually in service. It's how you serve the client, how you communicate your value, and what value you create for the client. But for Instagram, you need to have a different approach, because I think these days we run these Instagram profiles just for some other artists and other art quiz companies, so they can see and get inspired of what we are doing. So we now came with the idea that we would like just to post our sketching phase, just to show some artistic things, rather than just to show the average daily work. Because everyone knows that, I mean, in almost in every studio, like 50% of what you did, you don't want to show this, because I mean the client art directed everything. You don't like the composition, you like all those things. However, the client is happy, you're happy. I mean, you did this. But yeah, but you have an option to make your Instagram more personal and more individual, so why not to do that?
I'm pretty sure even companies like Mir, like if you go inside the office of Mir, they must have around the corner some sort of like elf that comes to you and says, "Come, let me show you the images that we don't show anybody."
Yeah, man. You know what I like to do in my spare time? I like to make research how the daily deliveries of some top companies is looking like. So basically, I'm trying to find the sources where I can find their daily deliveries, their works that they never publish, but their clients can publish this. For instance, like you go on the website of HKS, of I don't know Hawk, or Gensler, or wherever, like whatever the company, right? And you can find some renderings that these companies will never be proud of. However, you could see that they also deliver some, typical solutions. So
Dude, you can't
yeah,
escape that. You can't escape that. You can't
no, no,
escape
yeah,
that. It's like you can't escape that. It's like a little bit like when you go to a fashion show and Louis Vuitton releases their latest beautiful collection, and then you see some guy in the street wearing like What the hell? It's you can't escape that. People at the end they have control over the final product and you can be the best artist possible. What we do, it's a service. It's a little bit like myself as an Italian. Um, I go to Italian restaurants here in Poland and sometimes I'm like,
How do you like them, by the way?
the food is amazing. I tell you, like if you go to the right restaurants, food is amazing. It's really like Warsaw is, whoa, amazing. But you still see people that are like, hey, can you please give me the spaghetti and the sauce separate? And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Taras,
By the way, they will never do it in London. I mean, it's how they adapt cuisine in different countries. But I mean, for instance, in a city like London, they will always produce the same the same quality as they had to do it in their motherland. I mean, if it's a
listen, dude.
Indian food, it's going to be super
I
spicy.
I worked I worked in London as a cook because before doing architecture, that was my career.
Really? You as a cook?
I did, man. I worked with very like famous names, chefs and everything. And I can tell you, I worked in a very good restaurant in Kensington, and we had people asking us crazy things like, um,
Really?
like some people they would ask us for a matriciana pasta, and then they would ask us to put cream because the pasta would be too spicy otherwise. And so what can you do? It's like the client is paying $30 for a plate of pasta that, in Italy would be like $6, $7. You do it, right? You
Even
have
in
to do it.
Kensington, in the luxury area where probably the most top-notch clients are living and
Dude.
operating, right?
Yeah. So,
Damn.
feel better about your work as an artist.
Yeah, and just to finish this, I remember when I started doing CGIs in back in 2014, there were a couple of companies. There were just Mir, Bertrand Benoit, D-Box, and Binyan started its career. Now there are so many companies, and I remember how people were so much obsessed by hyperrealism. Everyone was just trying to achieve hyperrealistic result, and that was everything they had in their mind. And when someone was posting something super realistic, it could have a lot of likes under the post. But these days, people already, I mean, they already had it, they experienced this, so they're not that much excited about photorealism. They're like, so what? I mean, like everyone can do photorealistic image these days. So now you have to, it, yeah, it became very interesting because you have to find somehow your visual style or to leave it as it is. But I mean, it gives you a lot of like a variety of options of how you can do this.
But I think that you guys do it extremely well. Like, to be honest with you, when I see your work posted, um, almost instantly I know that it's a render bar image. Almost instantly, I got used to it. I love your work. To be honest with you, my mood boards for the work that we do at Elephant Skin, a lot of your images in it. So um,
Great,
but
great.
it's very recognizable. I think that you guys are the stuff that you do. It's amazing, and actually, like this made me think that this conversation between you and I was very long overdue. Like we should have done it probably a lot sooner.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, but everything happens in the right time, right?
Of course.
So
Dude, listen, we gotta wrap this up because time is a bitch. But I wanna thank you really for giving me your time, your availability. Uh, Dude, you're an amazing person. I look forward to the time that we're gonna meet again. And I hope that everything will be fine for you, for your company, and for your people. Like D2 was different when you guys were there, when Yuri was there, when all the gang from Ukraine was there. Uh, I don't know. I miss you guys, and I hope that we're gonna see each other very soon.
yeah, yeah, me too. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you for your interview.